Hello everyone, I'm Lemon. Yeah, today I'm going to read you a book, a very small paragraph of the book. The book's name is Beyond Feelings: A Guide to Critical Thinking. Yeah, here. Yeah, it is on my phone, so I have to read it here. I don't have the actual book. This is downloaded from Google somewhere. So in the very beginning, the book discussed a topic. That is, who are you? Okay, let's start. Who are you? Can you answer that question? Chapter 1. Who are you? Suppose someone asked, who are you? It would be simple enough to respond with your name. But if the person wanted to know the entire story about who you are, the question would be more difficult to answer. You'd obviously have to give the details of your height, age, and weight. You'd also have to include all your sentiments and preferences, even the secret ones if never shared with anyone. Your affection for your loved ones, your desire to please the people you associate with, your dislike of your older sister's husband, your allegiance to your favorite beverage, brand of clothing, and music. Your attitudes couldn't be overlooked either. Your impatience when an issue gets complex, your aversion to certain causes, your fear of high places and dogs and speaking in public. The list would go on. To be complete, it will have to include all your characteristics, not only the physical, but also the emotional and intellectual. To provide all that information would be quite a chore, but suppose the questioner was still curious and asked, how did you get the way you are? If your patience were not yet exhausted, chances are you'd answer something like this. I'm this way because I choose to be, because I've considered other sentiments and preferences and attitudes, and have made my selections. The ones I've chosen fit my style and personality best. That answer is natural enough, but in part, it's true. But in a larger sense, it's not true. The impact of the world on all of us is much greater than most of us realize. Okay, here's the first influence, and this one is quite interesting. The influence of time and place. Not only are you a member of a particular species, Homo sapiens, but you also exist at a particular time in the history of that species and in a particular place on the planet. That time and place are defined by specific circumstances, understandings, beliefs, and customs, all of which limit your experiences and influence your thought patterns. If you had lived in America in colonial times, you likely would have had no objection to the practice of barring women from serving on a jury, entering into a legal contract, owning property, or voting. If you had lived in the 19th century, you would have had no objection to young children being denied an education and being hired out by their parents to work 16 hours a day. Nor would you have given any thought to the special needs of adolescents. If you had been raised in the Middle East, you would stand much closer to people you converse with than you do in America. If you had been raised in India, you might be perfectly comfortable having your parents choose your spouse for you. If your native language was Spanish and the knowledge of English modest, you probably would be confused by some English colloquialisms colloquialisms. James Harrison offers two amusing examples of such confusion. Chevrolet Novas initially sold very poorly in Mexico because Nova in Spanish means it doesn't work, and Purdue chickens were regarded with a certain suspicion because the company's slogan, "It takes a tough man to make a tender chicken," became in Spanish, "It takes an aroused man to make a chicken affectionate." People who grow up in Europe, Asia, or South America have a very different idea of punctuality, as Daniel Coleman explains. 5 minutes is late, but permissible for a business appointment in the US. But 30 minutes is normal in Arab countries. In England, 5 to 15 minutes is the correct lateness for one invited for dinner. An Italian might come up 2 hours late. Ethiopian still later. A Javanese not at all, having accepted only to prevent his hosts losing face. A different culture origin would also mean different tastes in food. Instead of craving a New York strip steak and French fries, you might crave raw monkey brains or camel's milk cheese patties cured in a dry camel's dung and washed down with warm camel's blood. Sociologist Ian Robertson summed up the range of global dietary differences succinctly. Americans eat oysters but not snails. The French eat snails but not locusts. The Zulus eat locusts but not fish. The Jews eat fish but not pork. The Hindus eat pork but not beef. The Russians eat beef but not snakes. The Chinese eat snakes but not people. The Jay of New Guinea find people delicious. To sum up, living in a different age or culture would make you a different person. Even if you rebelled against the values of your time and place, they still would represent the context of your life. In other words, they still would influence your responses. Okay, so here it says that time and space you are in absolutely makes a great difference on your characteristics, on your taste of food, on your personality, whatever. It affects you in every aspect. So the very interesting example is illustrated in the earlier time. You may be a part of the society that would agree child labor and would be against women's legal rights, like voting, like owning property. Anyway, from today's opinion, the old times activities are kind of evil, not right? They are simply not right. But if you are in a part of it, if you were at that time, you were at that place, you would be a part of it. That is quite, it makes sense, right? So suppose you were a person, maybe you're a person from the future, you are maybe 50 years or 100 years ahead in the future, and you travel back in time. Okay, you don't have to travel back. Anyway, suppose you are a person in year 2080. How would you think of today's society? How would you think of many things in today's environment, circumstance? You will probably find a lot of mistakes happening here. So maybe the beliefs you hold, the things you trust, and something that we commonly think that is quite normal and quite actually right, quite okay in our society are actually, they are all not okay. They are not good, and they are even evil. That could be quite possible. So one cannot jump out of his time and place, and yes, you may be against some of today's society, some things, some phenomenon that you see, some things you see, you may disagree, you don't approve, but the whole system, the whole environment, everything, they are all having impact on you. You are influenced inevitably, and in that sense, it makes a great dear part of you. So who are you? Absolutely a large part of it, of you, a large part of you is shaped. No, I mean, a large part of you are shaped by the time and the place you are in. And not to mention, in the following, it mentions also about the mass culture, about the media, social media, everything, television, ads, advertising, commercial, political things, many things. They all have impact on us, and we cannot escape our time and space unless you may travel time. I wish there was a time machine that I may travel to the future to see, and then have the chance to look back on today's everything, and I wonder what would I discover when we could be out of our culture, out of our circumstances, and everything may be different. I don't know if I am expressing myself clearly, but that is what I mean. I mean, really, in some sense, we cannot run away from where you are and what time you are. Goodbye.